Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's CHANGE.TROYCE and you're watching Choice TV. Oh my god, I just walked out of watching Scary Movie 6 and I just recently saw the movie and I literally watched it twice just so I could have a concise, developed, natural opinion. And let me just start out by saying that the movie did not live up to what I expected it to live to. But regardless, I'll get into that in a little bit. So congrats to the Wayans family because as you guys know, the Wayans family had the entire franchise stolen from them after they did Scary Movie 2.
And hopefully we put the right formula together and make everybody feel good.
Now, you said watching, letting go of the franchise, right? And watching.
We didn't let it go. You mean snatched.
Well, they snatched it.
Snatched don't mean you let it go.
Right,
somebody
you're right.
bend your fingers back and make you let go of something. That don't mean you let it go.
You're right. Well, with that happening, right?
Scary Movie 1 was a big success because as we all know, the late 90s was an era where they were doing a lot of teen coming-of-age films. And the Wayans brothers kind of, didn't really have a space in the cinema world because a lot of their projects weren't taken seriously. It really wasn't until the Wayans brothers came out with movies such as Scary Movie where Hollywood and the whole world started taking them very seriously. I mean, for one, they literally created Scary Movie 1 because it was basically a parody and a satire of all the shit people were infatuated with now. Teen dramas, coming-of-age stories, horror films, teens in high school, things that a lot of people could relate to. And unfortunately, Hollywood was only funding and entertaining that type of content. And the Wayans brothers added their own spin to it, and they all came together to come out with Scary Movie. But what's so interesting about the Wayans family is most people don't realize it, but the entire franchise was swooped away and stolen from them because Harvey Weinstein and his brother and Miramax put a lot of pressure on them to come out with more content. They couldn't do it on time because they couldn't get proper budgeting, they couldn't get the money they wanted, and Harvey Weinstein and Miramax decided to just take the entire franchise and do it without them. Of course, they kept some of the recurring characters like Anna Faris and Regina Hall, but unfortunately, the Wayans brothers and anyone associated with them had to pretty much go, which is really unfortunate because, again, they built a franchise from the ground up just to have it stolen. And it's sad because this is exactly what Trina McGee from Boys Meets World, she's now, a traveling actress and she's now, a producer. She travels a lot to Africa and she does a lot of podcasts. And I'll never forget in one of her interviews, she said the big reason why you don't see a lot of shows that show a lot of representation nowadays is because a lot of us don't own it.
The 90s were so great, we had all these shows and it was rolling and you could see us everywhere. And I looked at her and I said, because having really experienced it, my thing was, it's not as great as you think. The reason why is because nobody of color owned those shows. How black is the show if you're not in ownership of it? If you're not controlling the platform, is it really a black show? Don't get fooled, don't get bamboozled.
And this was a very serious conversation a lot of us had to have back then about ownership because they were able to get their whole franchise stolen away from them. But now, fast forward to recent years, they were able to get it back. And they've been working on Scary Movie 6 for the past 2 years. They got a budget, Paramount Productions was able to work with them, and they managed to put a lot of clause in their contracts to make it clear that this would never happen again. So the Wayans brothers were able to literally bring back all the entire original cast, and they were able to bring back Scary Movie 6. They've been doing press tours all over the world, all over Brazil, all over Latin America, and all over the States. And everybody has pretty much created a lot of anticipation for Scary Movie 6. People have been dressing up for it. People went together with their families, their friends, and brought the new generation in to enjoy it as well.
First things first, considering the movie just came out, let me just make it clear, I walked in there camcorder ready with my candid camera because I wanted to make sure that I could pull off some clips for a lot of y'all so y'all can have an idea of what I'm talking about.
So here's my review for Scary Movie 6. I'm going to give it a solid 6 out of 10. I would have given it a 5.5 out of 10, but I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 only because they managed to bring back Regina Hall and Anna Faris, and they absolutely killed it.
You want to see something cool? I'm going to show you something cool.
God, that's cool.
What are you doing? What? No, not like that. Yeah. I don't know why y'all acting so scared. The gun ain't even loaded.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit, son.
Uh-oh. I get it again. I always forget that last one in the chamber. Help me move his body. Yeah, you got it.
That was fun.
Oh, so what are you doing after this?
I want to go to Cabo.
Oh, I love Cabo. All right.
I'm going to give them their props. First of all, they look amazing. Most specifically, Regina Hall. She hasn't aged at all. It was really nice to see her come back to the franchise. And it was really nice to see someone like Ann Faris do the whole movie, because she always made it clear that she was very iffy about doing a scary movie again because, you know, the whole comedy thing never really aligned with her. You know, she made it clear when she first did Scary Movie, it was her first audition, and she never wanted to be a comedy actress, and she ended up being that. Although it did well, there were a lot of mixed reviews on the internet. Most people thought they were going to be, you know, blown away, and it was going to be just like, you know, the last movies and the old franchises and the old times. But unfortunately, there were a lot of very corny jokes that a lot of people did not like.
Characters, but it wasn't much with it. Like, it was just, even the guy with the little hand, he's just at the bus stop. Like, we could have did something. It was just showing a bunch of old characters, but nothing was played off of it. Everything was all over the place. Like, there's no jokes that hit that is stuck in my head that I'm going to repeat. Like, nothing. Irritated.
It was a lot of, you know, them trying to force a lot of things to, like, you know, resonate with the newer audiences. And that's kind of what rubbed me a lot of people the wrong way. So for one, I feel like they were trying their best to be a little bit too woke. You know, I noticed that they tried to stuff in a lot of pop culture references. It was nice to see them throw in, you know, the Epstein file references. It was nice to see them throw in the Me Too stuff and the, you know, the recent controversy involving Target, you know, now canceling DEI programs and how a lot of companies are doing DEI programs and withdrawing from them.
This white girl can't die on my shift. I'm a DEI hire. Oh my God, she's fine. It's go. No, good, clear.
It was nice for them to throw that in. They also threw in a lot of issues with the ICE protests, where a lot of people have been going against ICE. Because as you guys know, in America, there's been a lot of issues with a lot of illegal immigrants overstaying their visas. And there's been a lot of issues of ICE using unnecessary force, camping outside of elementary schools, and literally even waiting outside of construction sites just to literally detain people who aren't here legally. So they did go below the belt. And honestly, that's what the movie is for. I'm not really mad at them for going below the belt. The problem that I had with the movie was they tried too hard to be woke, and then they also tried so hard to stuff in a bunch of spoofs and parodies in one film.
I will say this. At the beginning of the film, it started off with Tiana Taylor. So Tiana Taylor, for some reason, was in the movie, and I really was upset when I saw her, because the moment I saw Tiana Taylor in the film, that was when I was like, all right, I'm gonna fucking head out, because anything with Tiana Taylor in it is usually garbage. That's no disrespect to her. I love her music. I just don't want her to act no more. Anytime I see a movie or a TV show with Tiana Taylor, it's always mid. It just always turns into a bunch of celebrity cameos. They always throw her in with celebrity cameos. It just never turns out right. So when I saw her, I was like, oh boy, I already know where this is going. So I did think her acting was a little bit cringe. I didn't think she needed to be in the film at all. I think they tried too hard for her to be the, you know, the hood, ghetto, fabulous black girl trope, which I thought was a little bit lame for her. I don't think she really has it in her. I think if they're going to do anyone, you know, have anyone play that role, I think they should have definitely asked someone like a Keke Palmer or, you know, even asked Meatball from Baddies to do that.
Where's Biggie? Because you don't know nothing. Trying to give us a tour. You probably never even been here. First of all, I'm not waiting at 12 o'clock to eat. This is not Thanksgiving. I'm hungry now.
But they asked Tiana Taylor, and she's not funny. That was the only problem. If Tiana was funny, it would have made sense, but she's not funny. She has terrible comedic timing, and they could have just saved the entire film with her being not in it.
Did I stutter? You lost.
You right. But I want that Golden Globe, bitch.
My favorite part of the film that I will say is this. I did like the fact that Regina Hall portrayed Octavia Spencer when they were trying to recreate Ma. You know, Ma was a very, you know, up and down, really cringe, really unsettling film that a lot of us watched, and a lot of us also didn't support as much, but it really was a great film. And they really tried to recreate that same energy of Ma. I really wish they would have, you know, pivoted more towards that. But instead, I feel like a lot of the movie was trying to pivot towards the new generation. You know, I would have really liked to see them do something more with the whole Friday the 13th and the Final Destination thing. Because if you watch the movie, Anna Faris kind of, you know, ripped off Final Destination. And she also kind of did her whole, you know, spoof of, you know, Friday the 13th with Michael Myers and a bunch of other shit. So that was nice to see her try to, like, you know, do her own thing with Jamie Lee Curtis and try to portray Jamie Lee Curtis and mock that film as well. But I didn't like the fact that they pivoted towards the new generation because these generation of actors are not that entertaining. I feel like nowadays they always cast people who are just picture perfect and very attractive. I oftentimes will watch movies and TV shows and they don't really cast, around the way girls anymore, or, guys from down the block anymore. These didn't look like normal people. These look like people that were, just stuffed together. I feel like the actors didn't have much chemistry at all. They had this one girl who portrayed Brenda's little daughter who was in high school. She was supposed to be like a rendition and a parody of like liberals nowadays who, make a big deal out of everything.
Turn off this ratchet ass music. It's embarrassing, especially for black women. It's not embarrassing. I'm the cool mom everybody wish they had. I'm lit.
And I remember watching that and be like, bro, why the fuck they got this bitch wearing this big ass Oprah wig? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, they also threw in Deidre Wayne's son. Deidre, if y'all don't know, is basically the niece of Keenen Ivory Wayans. And Deidre is basically the mother of Gary Wayans. Gary Wayans was the guy who played, Brenda's son in the film. He played a high school student, which is weird because that man's like 38 years old. I'm really shocked that they got this man at this age to play a high school student. But they had him playing a high school student, and there was just no chemistry on screen. It just felt like they just threw a bunch of people all together and just expected there to just be magic, and it just wasn't magic at all. I really wish they would have got like more chemistry tests. That was the special thing about Scary Movie back then, was even though the acting wasn't so great back then in the 90s and the early 2000s when they did Scary Movie 1 and 2 and even 3, it meshed well because the actors had chemistry. Like, you could just generally tell the actors were just there to do a job, but they also knew how to bond with each other and use each other's weaknesses and strengths. And I think that's what these new generation of actresses and actors just lacked. You know what I mean? Like, I thought the girl who played Brenda's daughter was doing too much. I thought she tried too hard to be funny.
But I mean, for a lot of us who grew up watching That's So Raven, it was nice to see her. Because if you didn't know, she played Cindy Campbell in That's So Raven. So it was nostalgic for a lot of people who grew up in the early 2000s to see her. She's just not funny.
You know what? That is wrong. That is just wrong. Y'all a family. Y'all ain't getting none of this turkey leg either. Everybody, my friend, Sydney. Look it up. How y'all doing?
My name is Sydney, and yes, I'm a girl.
She didn't really have great comedic timing like how Regina Hall does, or how like a Leslie Jones does, or like a Monique does. There was just no comedic timing with even Gary Wayans. I think that he did okay, but his comedic time was just a little bit off. I also thought it was a little bit cringeworthy that they threw in the little transgender person, where they threw in the transgender, they, them person, where it was interesting and funny to like kind of poke fun at the whole pronoun shit, but it was just kind of cringe and kind of lame.
Main problem with the whole series, the whole franchise, is it's not that they're stuck in the 90s and 2000s. I get that they can't just create the same exact humor. It's just that the flow of the story could have flowed. You know what I mean? Like with the transgender character, they could have incorporated a scene where he was competing in women's sports, or how he tried to, or he or them tried to walk into like a women's bathroom, and little stuff like that, the stuff they do in women's bathroom. They could have like had him doing his homework and like cooking dinner and shit like that in a women's bathroom. They could do something really funny with that instead of just creating like a whole they, them, she, her transition argument that just didn't even like land properly. It's kind of like what a lot of people said. There's nothing quotable about this movie. There's nothing you can quote. Even the Kai Cenat scene, Kai Cenat was thrown to the film, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, this might get better. I mean, his scene was okay. It wasn't bad at all, and I think Kai did a good job. I just didn't like the fact that they barely gave him any lines. I think they could have really incorporated him in the actual film. I think he could have been like part of the high school students. I think he could have been part of the flow. Like, they really could have just created a flow. Like, the problem with a lot of these actors they threw in is a lot of these actors, they don't have improvisation skills. They can't improvise. People don't realize this, but when you guys saw people like Brenda fighting the Grudge and fighting the Ring in the film, in the scene from Scary Movie 3, a lot of that whole scene was improvised. You know what I mean? Like, she was just winging it and talking her shit, and a lot of that stuff wasn't even in the original script. She was just having fun with it, and that's the problem with these actors. They don't know how to have fun. They just try too hard to deliver instead of actually delivering stuff. I just wish the Wayans family thought about this before they cast a lot of these cringeworthy actors to play the new generation of entertainers. What's even weirder about this is even when, Marlon Wayans started in Dance Flick, that whole scene where he pretended to be a teacher who was off the wall and off the chain, that was improvised. That's what people nowadays as entertainers just cannot do. They can't improvise. They can't wing it. They're just not naturally funny. They just don't have comedic timing. And that was the problem with the film, is that they tried too hard to spoof, parody 16 different films. They did Smile. They did I Know What You Did Last Summer. Then they did Scream. Then they talked about Ballerina. Then they did Ma. Then they did a bunch of other stuff like Weapons. And they did a parody of Sinners. And the list goes on. Like, it was literally like 16 different parodies in just one film. Like, why is Annabelle, not incorporated more in the film? Why aren't they incorporating, the film Megan about the little AI, little girl? Why aren't they incorporating more in that in the film? Same thing with Chucky and a bunch of other stuff. Like, where is it? Like, where's the flow of things? It doesn't flow naturally.
I think the movie just didn't make any sense, and I think they were trying so hard to be, performative and performatively woke, and they were trying too hard to be a little bit like trendy and relate to Gen Z. I did think they did a little bit too much with all those random spoofs and parodies. They just dragged out a lot of scenes that didn't need to be there. Then you had the guy that was like, take my strong hand. No, you take my little hand. Like, they could have did so much more with him. They could have incorporated him in the film again. They could have had a scene where, he was like sitting down with the kids and talking to kids, and he was like, one of the police officers and shaking hands. They could have did something with him to make it interesting. But instead, they kind of just focused on Ghostface and the newer generation. When you look at movies like Scary Movie 2 and Scary Movie 3, this was the early 2000s. This was way before the fucking recession. This was before Obama became president. This was before Trump even came into office. This was years before. People oftentimes underestimate, how old a lot of those movies are. But sometimes a lot of us, we freeze these people in time, and we're shocked that that same flavor wasn't back. Anna Faris was literally like 23 years old when she did Scary Movie. Regina Hall was 29 when she did her first Scary Movie. And now Regina Hall is in her 50s. Sometimes people just don't oftentimes get that. They try to like pivot and relate to a new generation. But they could have came up with a better writing style. They could have literally focused on just 2 or 3 films minimum instead of, trying to spoof and parody 17 different films. It was nice to see at the end that they burnt down the house and they killed the new generation of actors that were in the film. So I guess maybe that was like what they were doing. They were basically kind of like making a moment where they were saying, this is our franchise. We're burning it down. Ain't no bringing new characters, and we don't got to like try to assimilate to Hollywood standards.
Yeah, we're making history. This is a new definition of black excellence.
But why would you do this?
Question is, why would you try to make a sequel without us, huh?
Yeah.
When the studio wanted to replace these brothers, I was there.
That's fact.
Wait. Do we feel bad? I mean, those are our kids. Fuck those kids. This is our franchise.
Yeah, besides, we can do one of these dramatic walkaways. We can buy them back to us. Damn, time.
So let's just see what comes down in the pipeline. Let's see what happens in the future, and let's see what ends up resurfacing. But that was that for my entire review of Scary Movie 6. If you want to go watch it, go see it. But I would honestly say that it was definitely not as good as I thought it'd be. But that's that for this entire video. Please just like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, that's that. Choice out this bitch.
Why don't we fall in love? It's so many reasons. It's the only thing that matters to me. It's so many reasons. It takes such a load off to let you know that you're the only one I won't ever want to go. Think I never did know what to do. A love I never felt, now I feel for you. Why don't I just swallow each and every ounce of my pride? Everything you do, I want to feel again. Ain't no use for us to pretend, 'cause why do we, why can't we, why can't we, why can't we fall in love? That's all you get for free. Thanks for watching, y'all. Follow me on Instagram and join my Patreon.